Welcome to Dental Skool, a podcast for business-minded dentists. Your host, Billy Rickman.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Dental Skool. My name is Billy Rickman. I'm joined by a very special guest today, Dr. Khaled, all the way from Harvey Bay. Welcome, Khaled.
Welcome, Billy, and I'm really excited to be with you in this podcast.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. So, a little bit of background. I met you, maybe a year ago, I think it was?
Yeah, I think so, last year.
Last year, yeah. And I got someone referred you to my sales training, I think it was.
No, actually what happened is I think I came across one of your pamphlets or something on Facebook or social media. Someone was inviting you to visit their practice or run a course or something.
Yeah.
And I saw the name, and instead of registering, I thought, okay, I'm going to directly contact you first.
Right.
Suss you out.
Suss me out, yeah. Well, obviously it worked out well because I ended up coming and doing a sales training day for your team.
Yes.
Up in Harvey Bay, which was a lot of fun. And the thing that struck me when I did the sales training firstly was the size of your team. And so you obviously run a very successful operation in Harvey Bay, but it's your backstory that's kind of cool as well. So before we dig into the business side, there's a lot of business stuff to unpack because, you'll go through your growth as we go through this podcast episode. Yeah. But I love the backstory. So let's start there. So you're from Egypt, correct?
Yes.
Okay, talk to me. What happened?
Well, born in Egypt, in Cairo, very busy city. Grew up there till I was probably around 24, 25 years of age.
Yep.
And once I graduated, my dream was always to get out of Egypt. And I always thought about Australia, Canada, England, or America, because those are the 4 English-speaking countries.
Right.
And I had a wild dream to go to Italy, but that's a whole different story.
We'll cover that in number 2
yes.
podcast too. Yeah.
So I chose Australia because it just was more opportunities open in Australia compared to other countries, and did my exams and passed the exams and came to Australia, started my first job in Harvey Bay.
Yep.
Then after my first job, I think after around 2 years, I decided it's time to have my own practice eventually.
Okay.
Then I started my own practice, yeah.
And you had been studying dentistry in Egypt first, though?
That's correct, yeah.
How long had you done dentistry in Egypt for?
It's around 5 years, so similar to here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you had to do, did you have to do some courses in Australia?
To qualify to come to Australia, you have to go through 3 exams. An English exam. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people actually failed this exam for some reason.
Yeah, you seem to do okay.
I did well with that. I think they failed because it's called OET, Occupational English Test, and the accent in the exam is very Australian accent compared to like IELTS or other English or American accent.
Yeah.
A lot of people fail because of the accent can be hard to understand.
The nuances in the accent. Yeah.
And then I did a written exam in Egypt and then clinical exam in Melbourne.
Right.
Yeah.
And you passed, obviously. So why choose Harvey Bay?
Why I chose Harvey Bay? When I applied for some jobs back then, and the market was much more open than now. There were a lot more jobs available than now, and I got some offers in Melbourne, in Canberra, in Country Victoria, Country New South Wales, and the advice was always to go regional because there is more work to do, more varieties of cases to see, and you just can build yourself up a lot easier in regionals compared to city. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to be close to the beach.
Yeah, right.
And
so for people,
was a nice place.
And for people who don't know, because obviously we've got an audience around Australia and some overseas as well. Where is Harvey Bay?
Harvey Bay is 3.5 hours north of Brisbane. So Brisbane's in 2 hours. It's Sunshine Coast, and it's just above Sunshine Coast.
Right.
And it's just a nice, laid-back, coastal kind of like city.
Yeah.
And you can, anywhere you live, anywhere you go, you're probably within 10 minutes driving distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. But it's seen a massive boom in the last 10 years.
Yeah. When I moved to Harvey Bay in 2007, there was only like 4 dental clinics, and the 4 dental clinics did not take any new patients. So the dentists working on their patients, and they do not accept any new patients at all. They're just so saturated.
So 50% of Harvey Bay had good teeth, 50% just did without.
Or they have to go to Sunshine Coast or Bundaberg or Brisbane to get the dental treatment.
Yeah.
And when I joined this practice that eventually bought later on is they get too excited when they hire a new dentist because now they can open a book and patients just, thank God you're here.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for 4 months just to see a dentist.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's really different than now.
Yeah.
Nowadays, population is bigger, more dentists, more competition, and more availabilities for patients to find dentists there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't mind sharing this story, one of the funniest stories I remember after we did sales training, yourself and what's the title of? We went for pizza.
Yes.
After the training,
Yeah.
you had two of your colleagues with you, and you told a very funny story about when you did a sleep course.
You want the story? All right.
I want the story.
All right.
You may ask me to edit this out afterwards, but the story for me was hilarious, and I think it shows a good insight into your personality and who you are. Yeah.
Well, it's picture this. All right. I was doing training with Dr. Derek Mahoney in Sydney.
Okay. Yep.
It's a 1-year mini residency on sleep apnea and sleep study or sleep medicine in general. So basically, we scan patients if they can breathe well at night, because if they're not breathing well at night, they'll grind their teeth and so on. So in a part of the course, there was a dentist in Brisbane, really great dentist. Her name is Anne-Marie Coles. And she was doing some studies on sleep apnea herself as well, paper. And she wanted some volunteers. So I volunteered to be part of the paper, and so I'll check myself as well.
Yeah.
So I had to go to her office in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, and she'll hook you up with something called a sleep study device. So it's like a little computer, and there's some electrodes that you put around, and there's some wires. And you have the option of doing this in a hospital, or you can do it yourself at home. But I chose, look, I'll come to your clinic and you do it to me. Like, I don't want to be bothered just doing it, and then I will drive and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I went like 5 p.m. as the last patient of the day. She hooked the machines, everything up for me. And yeah, so I had my car, and I.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's important to note the year that this was happening.
Just maybe, it was the whole thing about terrorism and ISIS. It was really hot back then.
Yeah, right.
I look, as you can see, I look very Japanese, more Middle Eastern than anything else. And I was driving my car. I got all those wires, and for some weird reasons, they were doing this random breath test thing, the highway. So stop the car. And the police approached, and they saw the wire, and they all start to back off, back down, and they're like, "Sir, please get out of the car." And it's a whole mess after that. The official just trying to explain it's a sleep apnea device. And luckily nothing happened, but I would probably lost my. When you're an immigrant, what goes in your mind, you're going to be deported back to your country and you never come back.
Right, so that's what you were thinking.
Second, I thought, okay, that's it. The Australian dream is over. I'm heading back.
Yeah.
But it was all cleared. Luckily.
It was all cleared. Excellent.
Yeah.
And so your business, Lakeside Dental, yes?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that. What was the journey? So 2 years after you arrived in Australia, you decide, okay, you practiced for 2 years, and now I want to open my own business. Before we get into the business, there'll be a lot of like associates and even some students and things that they say listen and watch these videos, listen to the podcast and watch the videos. What was your mindset around transitioning from being an employee to, okay, I'm going to make the decision to open my own business?
Yeah.
What was your thoughts going on in your mind at that time? What was the reasoning for kind of moving towards that decision?
It's a very good question, because I've been in the last few days interviewing dentists for a job that I want to hire, and they ask me some questions like that sometimes, and I went back. Let me track back. I was reading a post about a dentist who's a new grad, and after 3 months of graduation, they were saying that the job is not the right job for them. They want to move to another job, but they're scared on the resume they will look like they moved from different jobs too early. Then I realized in my first 2 years, I changed 10 jobs. And I was one of those employees you don't want to hire, because you just jumping from one job to another. I think I was an okay employee, but I always wanted something better. I always wanted a bit more control. I wanted to improve things around me. And when you are in a place where the owners are not interested in your ideas, then I start to really get annoyed and just want to find another place. So I think after jumping 9 jobs, I realized, I'm going to create my own job. I just can't work for someone anymore. And I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I mean, I never looked back since then. I can't picture myself working for someone else until I die, probably.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
The thought of working for somebody else would kill me.
But 9 jobs, one job I only lasted for 4 hours. So lunch break, I was out there, I'm not coming back. That's it.
But it also goes to show, like, because you have had such huge success, it does go to show that, some people, it doesn't mean they're a bad dentist or a bad worker or anything like that. If they, if they do job, they swap jobs, because some people are just of that entrepreneurial mindset, and they have ideas and they like growth and they can see opportunities and things like that. And if it's not in the business they're working for, then they can get frustrated. Of course, there are bad employees or who are lazy and they just leave because it's too hard and things like that. But I think a lot of the time, I really believe there's some people who were born with an entrepreneurial mindset.
100%.
And I walk into businesses all the time. Like there's a car wash for sale up here at the moment, and and like I'm not going to buy the car wash, but I had to look how much it was online, and then I started doing the numbers in my mind. How many cars is that? What occupancy? What are the opportunities? Because they've got a coffee shop attached and a lunch bar and things like this. And so I think some people are just of that mindset where they're very entrepreneurial. And it sounds to me like, have you always been like that, or did you move to a point where you became like that?
I'm not. Look, I've never thought I will own a practice. Like I think you should think about one step in a time. So I just wanted to graduate and move to Australia. That was my biggest dream. Once I came to Australia, I just wanted to work in a nice practice. But I never had the mindset, I'm going to own a practice one day. It just happens that I realized after 9 jobs, something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong with me.
Maybe I need to control my practice a bit more. And that's when I did it, realize, okay, it feels right. It just felt right from day one.
Yeah.
Just from the moment sometimes you make the decision, and then suddenly you feel you're not anxious about it. It just feels right.
Yeah.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
And I think you can't just get out of it anymore. Like it will be hard to work with someone under someone's management if you are managing your own time in a way.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, but it's always comes back. I don't know if you had this experience, but most business owners I speak to have this experience where it's like, what did you get into business for? They want more time and more money. Yeah. 2 years later, after they've opened their business, how's the time and money going? Well, I've got less time and less money. Yeah. Is the normal thing, right? Because it is a big leap to go from operator to entrepreneur, from employee to employer, because people think that I'm a good dentist. So if I open a dental practice, then that will be successful. But what they're not taking into account is you've also now got to manage people. Yeah. You've also got to manage money. Yeah. You've also got to manage patients, and not just the patients that are in your chair, but all of the patients. True. And if the patients aren't there, now I have to market the business to get more of them. Or if there's an opportunity coming, I need to market the business to get more revenue to be able to afford that opportunity. Yeah. And so I think it's a steep learning curve for a lot of people when they first open their business. And so you decided to do this, and the practice you started, though, is not the practice you're in now, right?
Yes. So, and I think adding to your point, the mindset or the leap between being an employee and ownership, there is also another leap when you are a solo practice owner. So a dentist who buy a practice and then just end up working on their own, on their own. To me, it doesn't sound like a business. It's just they bought themselves a job. They still work 8 to 5 days a week because they're the only dentist. And then they also carry the burden of the HR and the other stuff. And a lot of dentists are in that phase because they just want the control. But then the second leap is when you start to hire more associates and you want to run it now as a business. Yeah. And that's a whole different skill that we haven't been taught at uni. But answering your question, when I first started, I was a solo practice. That was my mindset, to be a solo practice, super dentist, don't hire any other associates, I just work as a solo practitioner. And I think after a year and a half of that, I was working on a patient and I was calling my nurse. I asked for some sort of a light cure. So I say light. And my accent is perfect, always. Perfect. And the patient heard bite. And she just bit on my finger really hard.
Oh, shit.
And it was so painful. You know when you get tears in your eyes but you're not crying?
Yeah. I was like, you get a ball to the nose or something. Yeah.
And that's when it hit me for 1 second. I enjoy dentistry so much, but there might be a time where I will injure myself or something. I just had this injury mindset. And if I can't do the job, I will lose my purpose in a way. So I need to still maintain the job, but also have another purpose, whether like you're mentoring, you're teaching, you're inspiring other associates. And that's when I changed the mindset from being a super solo dentist to multiple associates. And that was really tough to change. Yeah, the mindset was really tough. I think my first 2 or 3 associates suffered a lot because I was just trying to create a mini me of myself in the business. I was too controlling. But then you learn as you go different business skills and you meet the right people, the right mentors, and they do some coaching. And it's just, you have to change the way you do things.
Well, it's no different to dentistry in a sense. I was speaking to somebody the other week and they were talking about, doing veneers and smile makeovers and things like that. And how when they first started, they've been doing it for 6 months, 12 months, what have you. And they said, I've seen a few patients now. I'm pretty good at this. And, you take your before and afters and things like that of the patients. And now this particular person was 10 years on, and he said, you know, I look back on those, the ones I was so proud of. You know, I'd been doing this for 6 months, 12 months. Look at my work; it's amazing. And they would put it on social media or whatever, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'm embarrassed by this. And that's no different to business.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time to learn these skills, and you know, even if you do go to university or you do study business and things like that, there's nothing that can substitute practical application.
Absolutely.
You've got to go through it in order to learn the skills.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is, as you alluded to before, I think is, well, I can control me, and I know what motivates me.
Yeah.
And I know that if I'm in a rut, I know how to get myself out of it. If I want to upskill, I know the best way I learn. But when you've got 4 or 5 other people and they don't think like you, how do I manage that team to become the very best version of themselves? And that's a challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was the other question when I first started, and I had some friends were going to partnership, like the 2 or 3 dentists together, they want to open a practice together, and they always ask me, would you like join us? And I was always against the idea of business partnership. I'm not sure your view on that, you can share with me. I always felt ownership, you get the glory, but you also get the risk completely. And I felt the same with partnership. I want the full benefit and the glory, but I also want to take the full risk if it goes wrong. If it goes downhill, it's me, I'm responsible for it, it's my problem, I will fix it, I will deal with it, I will find another job. But when you have other partners with you, it gets trickier, it's different. What's your view on partnership in business compared to solo?
All I will say is that I've been in business now and around business owners for 13 years. Most horror stories I hear of in business result from a partnership.
Yeah.
Because it's all good at the start, because you probably got 3 or 4 core beliefs around what you want the business to be, how you operate the business and things like that. But as your business grows, it evolves. And the bigger you get, the bigger the problems. Yeah. And more often than not, the more frequent the problems. And when problems start arising, they need solutions. And so now if you've got an abundance of new solutions or problems that need to be solved, now you're opening up, you know, ideas that you haven't discussed at the start, and then you start to see differing ideas. And you know, something you said before, I want the risk, but I also want the reward. What I've found in partnerships is that usually one person is more riskier than the other. Yes. And as you grow, that becomes a real problem.
The risk appetite are different.
Correct. Yeah. And so because one person's like, no, let's just keep going, put the pedal down more. And one person's like, no, this is scary, I want to stay. And that usually becomes a pretty divisive problem.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah. And when you talk about something interesting, I was reading that I think there was a study that showed a lot of people who studied MBA or to the master in MBA didn't end up being successful in business, compare those who are really successful in business haven't studied anything really. They just went and tried, and they had the personality to keep trying and building. And the more you get more structured education in business, you actually fail. It's a very, very weird study. And it comes to the teachers or professors teaching you business. They haven't opened a business before. They're professors in business. Or they teaching you how to run a business, but they don't run a business themselves.
Correct, It's the same with, I get frustrated with politicians, you know, who they stand up and say we should increase superannuation and we should do this for employment and all these different things, which I think are great. But at the same time, the people who are giving these speeches, they've never sat there and had to worry about paying wages next week because you've had a quiet month, or you know, now superannuation has increased 2%, which for even a small business can be thousands of dollars extra each week. And now I've got to find out where that comes from. And so I completely agree. There's like there's things that work in theory, and there's things that work practically as well. I've heard the same thing about people who do MBAs. They normally end up being employees. They usually are successful. They're on a couple $100,000 a year, and maybe some huge organizations, things like that, but they're normally employees. And I think that it comes back to what you were talking about before as well, is that risk appetite. Because you can have all the knowledge, right? But if you don't have that,
this risk,
if you don't have that guts to be able to lay it all on the line, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. You'll never be successful in that. Certainly not to the size that you want to be. So let's go back to your story a little bit. So you started off with a small practice.
That's true.
Started with you, and then you hired 3, or did you say 3? Yep. But now your team is ginormous.
Close to 40, yeah.
Close to 40, okay. And last time I was in Harvey Bay doing your sales training for you, I don't know, had you just moved into your new place?
Yeah. So I took much practice, Lakeside Dental Spa, from 1 chair to slowly 4 chairs in my premises there. So I had 2 associates and an oral health therapist as well. Then I realized, okay, I need to grow more. And then I called my previous employers of my first job I had in Harvey Bay.
Yeah. And
when I was working for this practice, it was only like a 1 chair practice, and we grew it together in 2 years into 3 chairs. And I wanted to buy it, but I was so naive back then. And the owner, when I first joined, she wasn't a dentist. She was an ex-manager, and then she bought the practice from the dentist who had some problems with certain drugs, so he had to sell really fast and leave the country. So she bought it for a really cheap price. She was struggling to run the business, so I really helped her a lot to grow it. And she said, like, if you grow the practice with me, you can buy it. But I was so naive, I didn't put a price or anything. Then after 2 years, it was doing really well. And she said, you can buy for $1 million. Like, no, I cannot afford it. I end up leaving. Then, long story short, I called her after 2 years later on. Hey, her practice will start to fail again. Right. Do you want to sell? It's like, she thought I was joking and trying to start out the business. I said, no, I'm really serious, you know. And she's like, yeah, maybe it's time for her to retire. And I bought the practice from her and grew into 3 chairs again. So now I have the 7 chairs. We need to grow. We have more patients to serve. We don't have the capacity to grow. So I thought, okay, let's move to a new premises. So I was looking for a certain shape of land, and I had a design in my head exactly where the reception is, where the rooms would be, and I had design for like 5 years, just flowing every night in my head. Every night I would just sit there and just picture everything.
Which is the entrepreneurial brain. And
then eventually it happened. Creation. You know, kept through different lands, and we took 5 years just to find the right spot, and I wanted up high up, so it's kind of like really exposed, like it's not blocked by any other buildings. I just had a certain criteria in my head. I didn't want to compromise on any of them. Yeah. And after 5 years, we find the right land and everything, and then we moved 2 years ago to this premises. And that's where we were able to grow and design it how we want it to be, and fix a lot of problems in the older design. I learned what was wrong with my practice. Okay, the next one I want to do it differently. But you get so hungry now after 2 years. I would have done it completely different.
Oh, really? Yeah. Evolution, right? Your business never stops growing, right?
Oh, maybe I should have done this or that. But maybe in 5 years, 10 years, we'll see.
But again, just going back though, that's the practical side of it, right? Because in theory, in your brain, you said this will work, and it probably does to a point. Yeah. But now you're practically applying, you know, every day, the operation side of the business, and you think, oh no, this could be better. Yeah. But you don't get that until you practice it, right?
Hunger is a curse. Like, you know, there's no,
I love that quote.
Honestly, you enjoy the practice. Maybe I enjoyed it for 1 day. So the practice was open 1 day, it was great. 6 days, okay, I need to do 1, 2, 3. Like you just want the next level straight away. And it's a nice curse to have, but sometimes you want to stop and enjoy what you have as well, and let yourself just relax and enjoy first.
So you got 40 people in your team. And for people who are watching the video or listening on the podcast, I'd highly recommend I assume on any of the social medias for it's Lakeside, but do you still go under that handle? Because I know you changed the website URL.
Lakeside Dental Spa,
Lakeside Dental Spa, and have a look at the building that they've created. It's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning, even aesthetically from the outside as well. It's beautiful, and it goes to show, you know, what Khaled just talked about then about hunger is a curse. Well, this is also what hunger can get you as well. And so for people who are aspiring for growth and seeing what's possible, I'd recommend you go and check it out. But when I do these podcast episodes, it's great to have these conversations, and then people can understand the stories and maybe get some inspiration and motivation from some of the backstory and where you've grown to. But I also like to give some practical knowledge as well, some things that people can take away. And one of the things that caught me just before is when you said the story of the lady that you said you helped her to get her business to be successful. Yeah. And then when you left, it started to drop away again.
Of course.
So that situation tied in with what you've done with your own business. Let's talk a little bit about what you have done and what you do to a business when you first move in there. What do you see that are missing in some dental practices, and what you sort of recommend to people to grow their business?
I'll give you an example, and that's an example of a practice I bought as well, maybe in Brisbane 7 years back, right? And this practice, I bought it. It's an actually, and then I applied for a job 20 years ago and I didn't get the job.
You're right.
So after 15 years, I realized, okay, I want to buy it now. I end up buying the practice.
Is that out of spite or?
I don't know.
A little bit.
It is the hunger as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But anyway, when we stepped into the practice, it was a solo practice. Practitioner has been running the practice for 30 years. He has 2 oral health therapists or hygienists and a team of 4 staff members. But when I walked into the practice, first day, we got the clinical manager and the business manager not communicating together at all. So there's lack of communication between staff. And they don't talk to each other. There is no verbal communication. They don't address each other. They talk by emails or something.
Right.
Similar if you're a child with 2 parents and they are not communicating.
Yeah.
It's a really awkward situation. Then the dentist is always running late. Patients are not happy. Patients are used to just walking out, giving 1-star reviews, and staff are immune to it. So what I'm saying, the culture is really poor. And it's coming from the head, the owner. I believe the business is a reflection of the owner. It doesn't matter what kind of business it is. I believe that business is always a reflection of the owner. It doesn't matter what kind of business. And if the owner is energetic, motivated, and in a good mindset, the whole business will be very similar. If the owner is depressed, angry, having issues, or doesn't really care about the business, the whole business will run down as well. Yeah. So you as an owner walk into a business, you need to change the morale. It has to start with you. You have to have balance in yourself first. Yeah. If you don't improve yourself, doesn't matter what kind of coach you will hire in your business. It doesn't matter how many marketing agents you will get to help you with business. If the owner is not switched on and is not keen to build this business up, everything will fail. So my advice before you get in ownership, fix yourself first. Whatever is happening in your life, in your motivation, you need to be in your top game before you jump into leading a team.
Well, it's so interesting the parallels are on between business ownership and I think in a personal relationship, an intimate relationship. Because a lot of the time people go into new relationships trying to find somebody that will help them to solve their problems, right? Or to bridge the gaps and things that they need and their wants and things like that. When inevitably that relationship will certainly fail. Well, not certainly, but will have huge challenges in the future. Whereas if somebody gets into a relationship where they are 100% confident in who they are, they've got their life in order, they're squared away in all these different places, and then they go into a relationship, not because they need something from somebody else, but because, hey, I'm very comfortable with who I am. Yeah. But I would love some companionship. I'd love to be on a journey together. I'd love to support each other. Then that relationship is completely different. And I think that goes back to what you were saying in business as well. Like if you, one of the things I see all the time when I speak to people, I see them running a bad dental practice, and they think the solution for their monetary problems or the problems they're facing in the business is, well, if I open another one,
oh yes,
now I'll have double the income. No, because what you'll find is that if you have problems in the business, you're probably the biggest earner in that business. And you're the biggest driver of performance, even though it's not good. Now you open 2 businesses, your time is going to be diluted. And because this business is a new business, you're going to spend more time in this business. And it'll be hard in the first couple of years. And now this business is going to drop. And it just ultimately, it all comes crumbling down. So just going back, I think your point is really important, that you need to have yourself squared away first. And certainly if you're going to open another business, you have to have that first business squared away where you could go on holidays for 6 months and not worry that there's going to be any performance drops because you have your team in place, your systems in place, your policies are in place, your marketing is in place, your sales processes are in place. And so it's not relying on you. You're there because you enjoy it and you want to be part of it, but it's not relying on you. And from an individual or a personal perspective in terms of going into business, I think that those things need to be squared away. Your systems need to be squared away in here, in your mindset. Your process is what you do. And if you can enter a business with all of that in place, then as you said before, you're the head and all of that then starts to flow down.
And I recall something interesting before, because I was scared to run a big team like that. You know, and jumping into a big practice like that is always scary. And I always believe in learning by mirroring. And instead of investing a lot in coaching as well at this level, you need to find someone who has something similar and try to mirror what you're doing. And that was really, a lot of people are embarrassed to ask for help, right? So I had to raise the phone and call 2 owners. One is Dr. Harry Margaret in Melbourne. He has a 17-chair practice. And Dr. Novnir in Brisbane. He has an 8-chair practice in Ipswich. Very similar team as well, in terms of size. And I had to be, like just to call for help is, a lot of people are embarrassed to do, but I thought, look, I'm gonna do it.
Because it's a sign of deficiency.
Exactly. But both, you'll be amazed. Both were so generous with their time to help.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I'm not a direct competition with them. Harry Margaret was really nice. He invited me to come to his practice in Melbourne. He came all the way to Harvey Bay, spent 2 days with me in the practice as well. Nov as well invited my manager to spend a day in practice, didn't charge anything for us or anything. Like,
that's very nice.
It was just so nice people can help you like that.
Yeah.
But what I've learned from both of them is, besides their business skills and they're in a high different level than me, like much higher, is their relationship skills with their staff. The way they treat their staff, the way they talk to their team, the way they address their managers or DAs. And I watched Harry Margaret live introducing me to his staff and how they introduce him. The way he talks about them and to them, they will jump in a water for him.
Yeah.
Forget about the pay or how much they're getting paid.
They're going to battle for him. Yeah.
They just want to be around this guy. Because his energy, himself, he's very positive. His energy is very positive. People around him just want to be around him and want to help him because he's so, not fake nice, he's genuinely interested in his team. And that's something you can't learn easily anywhere.
Yeah.
And I've been applying that as much as I can. And naturally, I have genuine interest in people, but to show it is a whole different thing as well.
Yeah.
I'm a very introverted kind of character.
Are you?
And that's, yeah.
Not through my interactions.
Yeah.
Give you a
one-on-one. I'm good one-on-one, but not in a big setting.
Yeah.
But I think the core of successful business as well is the relationship. As you mentioned in your sales training, when you're dealing with patients, it's a relationship. When you're dealing with staff, it's a relationship. You have to have good interaction with your people or it's not going to work.
100%. Yeah. If we're talking about business, it's the same thing. If you're talking about a dentist to a patient, it's the same thing. It's a human to human contact.
Yeah.
And when people feel like you care about them, then they will open up.
Absolutely.
And if they feel like it's fake or not authentic, or you're just trying to take their money, or you're just trying to, if you're an employer, you're just trying to make them work more hours for your personal goals without any concern or care about what their goals are, then people will push back on that.
That's true.
And then again, it comes back to the personal mindset. You said earlier about if it works, I want the reward. If it fails, then I fail. Yeah. That's personal responsibility. Yeah. But a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs are not willing to take that personal responsibility. So when they don't get the response from a patient that they want, or they don't get the response from the team that they want, there must be some sort of external problem.
Yeah.
Even though this keeps repeating all the time, rather than looking inwardly and saying, what can I do better?
Yeah.
How could I have managed that situation better? How could I have, I'm doing sales training in Melbourne in a couple of weeks' time. And the people who come and do my sales training, they get a lot of benefit from it. But the reason I like doing with in the industry is because sales is still quite new. And so they're taking a risk or a gamble to say, well, I'm going to learn how to communicate better, right? But a lot of people are still stuck in their ways and say, no, I don't need to do that. Even though patient numbers are dropping, even though average sale is dropping, even though dentists aren't getting as many hours in their practice, they don't want to take that personal responsibility. So one of the biggest things I would say, even though this is your podcast episode, for my advice anyway, is that, if you want to succeed more, I think they should definitely take a leaf out of your book. Like, always look inwardly. What can I do better? Just to recap on some of the points you've said is like, it's culture. It comes from the head. If you have yourself squared away, then you can lead a team.
Yeah.
If it works, then that's the benefit of my hard work. If it doesn't, then I'm going to take personal responsibility for that.
Yes.
And you've also mentioned how you do coaching and you look for mirroring in other people who are successful, and you're willing to say, I am not enough, which is one of the biggest human fears, basic human fears, right? I'm not enough. I'm deficient in this information, but I'll go seek it.
Yeah.
And then you take action to become better.
Yeah.
And I think that that recap summary is all coming from what you've said, but it's just so true. And I just kind of wanted to summarize those points.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's one of the hardest things for anyone is to accept that there are things they need to improve on. And as I progressed in my life, there are things I keep improving on, but you also sometimes you get to a certain level of, in my age, over 40, hopefully maturity enough where you realize maybe this is something I cannot change, and then don't try to change it and just double down on your strength. So if I'm more introverted, I'm not going to try to be extroverted anymore. Just focus on the skills that I have and just double down as much as you can.
Yeah.
And utilize some of your teams that have the deficiencies that you have to help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
So you seek external help through your team instead of trying to improve yourself in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have that mindset in your business out of curiosity? Do you try to pair certain patients with certain personality types in your business? So if you know you have an extroverted patient, for example, who's a talker and things like that, and you have a dentist in your business who is similar, is there any systems in your business where you try to pair those people?
Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes if you have an extroverted patient with an extroverted dentist, it's like it will never end. They will never get anything done.
A 4-hour scale and
They will
clean.
be talking for 3 hours and doing 1 hour dentistry. They will distract each other. So I think now I'll be very honest with you. I'm giving a lot of autonomy towards staff and patients and dentists to choose what's even doing.
So the controlling Khaled has become
So I don't think we do much pairing at the moment. Dentistry is a very funny business. It's a very close contact business. We get patients that require female dentists a lot sometimes, especially female patients. And we try to pair them with female dentists. Very rarely, and we get some female patients want a male dentist for some reason. Like they believe they are better skilled. It's very weird. And we try to pair them just to, there's no need to change their mindset or argue with them about it much. We try to pair them if we can. But I think most of the dentists I have, I'm being very blessed with them. They're very good dentists. I spend a lot of time in the communication side of things. So we follow similar philosophies. So we can really blend in with any type of personalities. If a patient is introverted, we pick up on early on and talk less. Patient want to talk, we give them a bit more time to chit chat. So we try to be malleable with some patients as much as we can.
Yeah.
And dentists who are not really well communicators and I can't help them with that, we don't last together for a long time in a very professional way.
Yeah.
Maybe need a different mentor or a different style of mentorship and we just exit because we know it's going to drag the whole team down.
Yeah.
So if you have a team and let's say a soccer team and you've got one player that's not performing, it's going to drag the whole team down.
Yeah.
And I was recording a video recently, and I'm not sure if you agree with it. I was weird about recording. Can I share it with you?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe the staff don't get it, but I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Then I just do things and see what will happen. And
the risk side, your risk appetite.
As follows, a lot of stuff like say, "Oh, we're a work family," but I never liked this word.
A work family.
Yeah, I never liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fake, and I never liked it for some reason. I always say, I like to address ourselves as a winning team, not a family. Because a work family, if you have a close family member, let's say your brother, your sister, or something who's not performing well, you're not gonna let them go. Right?
Yeah,
you're gonna really, or someone who's a jerk, or uncle whatever is a jerk. I will just keep up with his jerkness
the sleazy drunk uncle.
Yeah, you're just gonna put up with them.
Yeah,
but if you're a work family and someone has those kind of like behavior attitude, you can't keep that.
No.
But in a winning team, if one player is not performing, it's unfair for the whole team.
Yeah.
It will drag the whole team down. Then
100%.
I'm not doing them a favor. As a coach or a manager, you will have to get this player up to standards, or they will have to exit.
Yeah.
But you can't do this with a family member. You're not going to do it with your family.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's also very interesting that when you hear anybody in business talk about it's a work family, it's never the employees saying that. The employees are never saying we're a work family, because you might want it to be a family. They don't consider themselves like that. This is a job. They get a paycheck, and if they can enjoy what they do whilst they're at work, then fantastic. If they can achieve great things whilst they're at work, even better. If they can reach their goals or get closer to their goals while they're doing that, even better. But that's certainly not. Yeah, I wouldn't relate it to a family, but I do like the sort of metaphor you're just relating to, though, like a winning team, and you're the coach and manager. Yeah. Right. And I love that. And the example you said was about a soccer team, and if you had one player, he drags the whole team down. Yeah. It also works the other way, right? Yeah. If you have an average team and you somehow recruit a good player, there's only one or two things that's going to happen. Yeah. Right. Actually, usually there's only one thing that happens. If the standard of the team don't rise, that person will leave. Of course. Yeah. Because that person because they're good or great, it probably means they have had a history of winning or have a desire of winning. Yeah. You're not going to survive. And so if you bring them into an average team, and I see it all the time where people go, if I speak to them and they say, "Oh, we've just recruited this new clinician. They're amazing. They're gonna just change the business. They're gonna do great things for the business." Yeah. And then I'll speak to the person 2 months later and I'll say, oh, how's Dr. Such and Such going? Yeah, no, they didn't work out. Oh, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, they ended up leaving. And again, but they don't look internally and say what happened.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the same thing. So if you have one bad team member, let's just talk about, in both examples, you have an average team.
Or a bad fit. It could be okay, it's just not a good fit.
Just not a good fit for the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So recruitment is very, very difficult thing to do right.
Yeah.
But if you get it right, it's one of the most rewarding things you can have. Yeah. So I love that metaphor. Winning team, absolutely agree with you. And I love that you said you're a coach and manager as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk quickly now as we start to come to the end of the podcast about growth in terms of business. So I believe that growth comes from 3 ways. Actually, 2 ways, but one's divided. So marketing. And marketing is external and internal.
Yeah.
So external is how do we find and attract new patients, ideally who are a good fit for the business, because it's good for everybody if you have patients who are similar to the culture of the business. And then internally, how do we retain them? And also, how do we get referrals from them? Yeah. And then the other side of it is sales, right? And again, I'm passionate about sales. I'm on a bit of a mission at the moment to change the mindset in the dental industry about we don't sell, we're healthcare professionals. Well, you do sell. It's just a matter of do you do it well? Yeah. And if you can sell, then obviously that builds revenue. And in business world, like a business survives on revenue, a business survives on profit. So you've got to do those 2 things. It's marketing and sales. So you've managed to go from single person, 3 associates, 7 associates, or 7 clinicians working with you, and now you've got 40 people. Yeah. Talk me through your marketing and sales strategies.
Marketing is a very funny thing, very interesting thing. And I've tried many different things. And I think with marketing, you got to try and tweak. The mindset of someone will tell you, Facebook is the best marketing thing ever you can do. Just do Facebook and it'll help and practice a lot. Usually it's not. It's usually they've done Facebook and it worked for them, but there's a lot of other factors around it as well. As you mentioned, patient retention and how they did. So for me, when I first started, I did mail drops and everyone's advising me against it. It's like that's old age stuff, should do TV or whatever. And it worked really well. Yeah. Because you know what? Everyone was not doing it.
Yeah, right. So,
look at
what everyone else is doing and do the opposite.
Everyone was doing something different, and I thought, okay, I'll do it then. I'll go to the old school and do it. And it worked in my area very well because patients were old school patients and they wanted that. So my strategy was to, if I want to summarize, just you have to find the right, hopefully, marketing agency, and the right means you're a good fit as well. Marketing, if you're working with a marketer, you're working close a lot together. And if you're not both on the same page, even if they are the best marketers, and you're not going to follow up with what they want, and you don't agree with the philosophies, it's not going to work. So you need to find someone who's the right fit with you, and just try and tweak. But what called beta testing, where you try different ads and see which one is picking up more, then get rid of the poor performing one.
Yep.
If you're unsure, just try. You want to do TV? Do it for 3 months and try. Do you want to do radio? Do it for 3 months and try. You just kind of keep trying and keep evolving.
Yeah. Obviously, we do marketing and we do marketing for you, so hopefully we're a good marketing agency, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I think marketing is something that in 2024, if you're not marketing your business, you're not being seen.
Yeah.
Competition for dentists is just immense at the moment.
And it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. And people who have just solely relied on word of mouth, just solely relied on patient retention, unfortunately, there's a lot of money coming into dentistry, or has done in the last couple of years. And so that means bigger and better practices, right? Yours is a perfect example of that. Yeah. If you still own a brick and mortar business, an old style brick and mortar business, you don't market your business, and then you have someone like yourself who is a powerhouse, hungry, great mindset, great culture, all these things we've been speaking about today, and now you start aggressively marketing where you're not just marketing, hey, get this offer, but you're also marketing, hey, this is who we are, the personality of the business, like you're going to lose a percentage of patients. Yeah. And if someone like you who has their systems in place, they're going to retain your patients. And over time, you might, it's like that old Pantene ad. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Yeah. You will start to see a loss. And if you're not on top of your business, then sometimes that realization comes too late. Yeah. And so I'm a big believer that you should be marketing your business all the time. And like we said, not just the strategy or the offer, but also who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? What's your mission in dentistry? Who are your team and things like that? And I think that you guys do that really well. And I think on that point, you have to do it really well, especially because you're a regional area.
Yeah.
And everybody knows everyone, sort of thing. I know Harvey Bay is a little bit bigger now, but it still has that mindset, right? And so if you do a good job, people know about you.
Yes.
If you don't, the other applies.
Yeah.
What about your sales strategy?
What was
Sales strategies.
Oh, yeah, sales is a very funny word. A lot of people think of it as something negative, and people have different opinions. I mean, I was with dentists other than other courses in the past where they think it's just...
They're not as good ones, right?
No, it's more different. Like, not as good as
I'm just
yours.
teasing. Yeah.
But some dentists can be very resistant and think it's manipulation tactics. I'm manipulating my patients. But let's think of this scenario situation. You have a patient who has gum disease, and this patient needs gum treatment. If you don't have good sales tactics or communication skills, or you don't believe that there's something good, you will tell the patient, hey, you have gum disease, you need gum treatment, it's going to cost this much, let's book you next week. Patient saying, you know what, I don't feel like it, no thanks. All right. And you lost the patient, and you did a disservice to the patient because they haven't fixed their gum disease.
100%, yeah.
But if you have every right tool, even if you have to fake it initially until you really believe that it's natural, and you try to build rapport with the patient, build some commonality, and try to mirror them and try to motivate them, raise their concerns, and eventually end up doing the treatment, I think you've done a great service to this patient. So you have used sales for the right way. But if you abuse and overtreat, of course, it's a different story.
Of course.
So my sales strategy is, if I want to summarize it, you have to keep working on your game. It's a game, it's a never-ending game. You have to improve your marketing. You have to improve your communication skills, your phone answering skills, how you dress, how you present yourself to patients.
Well, you've done your hair today, which I appreciate.
Done my eyebrows before. Every aspect from the patient journey, from they look at your website or your ad, to call in the practice or booking online, to walk into your practice, to getting the treatment, to walking out, to being followed up, every aspect of this is considered sales. And you have to improve, and you keep improving, because your competitor, you'll be naive to think that all competitors are there to look after you. No, they want your business at the end of the day. And if you don't keep improving, they're going to be out improving you.
Yeah, there's nothing in nature that stays still, right? You're either growing or dying.
Yeah, so I don't have a direct answer of a way. It's just everything has to improve in that level. And it's an ongoing game, an ongoing training. And can I share with you a quick story, if you don't mind? My friend, and I always look at the US because they're always 10 or 15 years ahead of us in terms of sales and marketing. Whatever's happening there is going to catch up here eventually. Yeah. He worked in New York in a corporate company, really high level, and he got a dentist cold calling his phone. And that is the tactics they're using now in the US.
Right.
So a dentist will call, can I share it with you? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
A dentist will call him, hi, Mr. They have his name and number for some reasons. So, hi, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. We are this dental office. Now, we're offering employees for your company. We have a deal with them, which is fake, that we offer you a $600 whitening package. Would you be happy to come? It's like, yeah, of course, I'm happy. Okay, by the way, when is the last time you had a scale and clean? Maybe not 6 months. Maybe do you fund? Let's book you for a scale and clean as well. By the way, when is the time you had a full exam? Let's book you for that. So they cold calling them to get him into the practice.
With a lead magnet of the $600.
It's legitimate. The only scamming part is they have no affiliation with his company.
Correct.
Because he calls HR like, oh, we don't have anything about them.
Yeah.
And he Googled this practice, and they're doing all this cold calling.
Yeah.
So they're getting to a level that we have never heard about in is it ethical or not? I don't know. I don't know now. It's like you gotta ask the question, is it ethical or not? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I always define ethical sales as adding value to somebody's life.
Yeah.
Right? If you're adding value to someone's life, it's ethical. If you're taking value away, which is taking their money or, doing damage or something like that, then that's unethical. I mean, I don't think it's unethical. I mean, they're not trying to steal people's money.
Yeah.
They're not trying to damage them in any way.
They also have portion.
Yeah, I mean that's great talk, right? Yeah.
That's what put him off.
Yeah.
So sales sometimes has to be honest.
100%. I believe that sales have to be 100% honest. I agree. But I mean, it's always like in business. I always think nothing's ever obvious until it is.
Yeah.
And if that came to Australia in 5 years' time, and then all these big corporations started doing it, it's like, yeah, of course, it seems like an obvious business solution.
Yeah.
I'll pay someone, even if it's not the dentist, even if I'm paying a call center, a professional call center, and I'm paying them $25, $30 an hour with some commission, things like that, and they're just phoning people.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a great sales strategy.
Yeah.
And it's never obvious until it is, right? And I think that could be a thing in a couple of years where people go, yeah, of course, that would be a solution. Yeah. That should be an obvious solution. I just want to quickly go back to what you said before, though. about the patient journey. You know, I would say that one person or one step usually doesn't ever make a sale, right?
Yeah.
But one person or one step can break a sale.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So you could, and so when somebody comes into a business, for example, like you said, you need to have all of those touch points, right? It's the websites, the social media, all those things. When they first come in, how does your reception greet them?
Yeah.
How are they managed by the treatment coordinator if you've got one?
Yeah.
How does the DA talk to them when they're getting the treatment, if they're communicating with them? How does the dentist do it? You know, what is the systems and flow and the steps? And then if you want to retain them, what are my follow-up systems like?
Yeah.
Right? All of those things need to be in place in order to make the sale.
Yeah.
But if you're missing one of those things, then you can break the sale.
Yeah.
And that goes with your people as well, right? So you could have 5 different people involved in that sale process, and you need all of them to be working in sync and doing all the right things. But if you have one bad person, that can break the whole chain. And that could just be the reception who greets them rudely because they're running late, or, you know, they've had a bad email or something like that. Or they've been spoken to badly by the business owner and now they're in a foul mood. That can break the sale. And so I think it's a really interesting lesson for people to take note of. It's like, it's not one thing that makes that sale, you know, that helps that sale go through. Or retains that patient. It's all of the different things, and you have to constantly be evolving and setting up. So just quickly before we finish, last bit of advice, Khalid's wisdom, Dr. Khalid's wisdom.
Well, man, that's hard. I think if I have one advice I want to close on, you want to change how you deal with your staff from having kind of like a no blame policy, which means if you put your staff to do something, tell them, look, you know, call this patient, do 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. If it works well, you get all the glory. If it doesn't work well, it's on me because I'm putting you in this difficult position. But the next layer, as you mature, it's not really on you. I mean, take responsibility, but also don't take it in a way that, don't blame yourself. If you did everything you could and it fails, it is what it is. We take responsibility, but at the same time, after like maybe 24 hours, just detach from this responsibility completely and accept it is what it is and move to the next problem. So no blame policy, including yourself. Don't blame yourself, and just it is the universe, happens for some reason we don't know about, and just keep moving to the next point. That's it.
Awesome. Well, that's it, Dr. Khaled. I always love chatting with you. I think your story is very inspirational, all the way from your immigrant roots, all the way through to small, sort of single owner operator, small practice, and now to the huge juggernaut that you've got operational now in Harvey Bay. And given the hunger appetite that you do have that we've spoken about, you'll probably have a new location in the next couple of years, double the size again until you're taking over Australia, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it and your time to run this, and I wish you all success. You deserve it.
Thank you very much. Until next time, thanks for tuning into Dental Skool, and we'll see you on the next episode.